Okay, boys and girls, this is a quick tutorial of how I etch my logo onto a blade. Normally I do this before I do the etching and put the handle on, but I wanted to do it for you, and this is where I was. I forgot that I needed to do that first, so we'll see how it goes. What I have here is a salt solution, warm water, and just regular table salt. As much as the water will dissolve. You put as much in there as the water will take. It's referred to as a super saturated solution, but just normal table salt and warm water. I'm also using a standard laptop power supply. This one happens to be, what are we up to? 18.5 volts, which is a little more than you need. You can actually do this with a 9-volt battery, but this is what I had. It's easier than rigging up the plugs on the end of the battery, so that's what I use. These colors are reversed. The black one is actually the positive, and the red one is actually the negative because of the direction that electricity flows. We want to etch the blade, so we want to remove material, and that's going to follow the voltage. Without getting into the science too much, that's how it works. I just happen to do this so I remember black to blade. You would do red to blade if you were using standard power supply. I know that sounds confusing, but it works for me. So I have my stencil on here. This is a Brother P-Touch ink stamp maker kit that I use the tape from. It makes a stencil. You can customize it, make it different every time. I have not yet had stencils professionally made just because they're a little expensive, but I figured I would show you guys how I do it. Here we go. I'm going to plug in my power supply. So we now have our power on. This is a little crusty. Hopefully it'll work. It's a lot crusty. Come on. Okay. I usually get this good and soaked with just a Q-tip. I usually get it good and soaked with the solution. You want to kind of tighten up your cotton. It tends to wander a bit. You want that as close as you can really get it to the bottom, so it doesn't have to transfer too much through there. The trick is not to get the metal to touch the blade because it will spark, but here we go. Gotta find where it's actually going to etch through. I'm just touching it a little to get my bearing as to where my stencil actually is. Now as I hold this down, it's making an electrical connection with the solution only. I'm not touching the metal to it. And the stencil is letting the liquid pass through, which is charged with electricity. The solution does not go through the paper where the logo isn't printed. So now you can do this with nail polish. You can draw a design, paint nail polish onto your surface, and when it's about halfway dry, take a toothpick and scratch a design or sign your name or whatever you'd like to do into the nail polish, and do the same technique. You do go through a few Q-tips because they get kind of burnt up and crusty. I'm going to try and clean some of this off so you can sort of see what's going on here with my hand in front of it. Sorry. Can't really see, but you will when I peel it off. This is a Damascus blade, so it's got the dark acid etch, so I want to kind of burn this in pretty well, but I don't want to go too much because it's a paper stencil and it will bleed through where it's not making good contact with the metal. Whoops, went through the paper there. Alright, well, we'll see how this worked out. Let's take a plug out and take our terminal off. Alright, I have this taped on here pretty well so it won't move. And we have a nice blotchy logo here. Let me get all the tape off here if I can. I usually use masking tape. It doesn't hold down as nice, but it does peel off much easier. Okay, so we have our little burn mark on here, as you can see. And this is where the magic happens. We take a little 400 grit. I like to get it just a little wet, very gently. And just to keep everything all together, just a little bit. I'm going to take a cloth, clean this off. Now I could have gone much deeper. Again, I didn't want to ruin the etch on the blade. I don't know if you can see that very well in the light. It's not a very good etch because, again, the stencil doesn't sit flat, but with a little hand sanding, that overspray or overburn will clean up and you'll have a nice logo. And that's Electro Etching 101 from Crosby Handmade Knives. I hope you enjoy.